Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I'm so happy to give this presentation. I will say, I have been teaching financial literacy for 8 years here at OU for students and staff. So I do feel like I have a good base knowledge of financial literacy, but I am no expert when it comes to marriage and couples counseling or anything like that. I'm just going to give you my best advice based on some research I've done, and then I guess through my 25 years of being married and what I've learned in those 25 years, coupled with what I've learned in financial literacy. So hopefully some of this information will work for you and your partner. If not, I hope that you at least enjoy today's session, but I really do hope you walk away with something. Okay, so let's just get started. All right, so there was a study done. It was on a website called startmarriageright.com, and it said 70% of couples argue about money more than, and it was pretty much everything that you can think of, but there was more listed here as well, that it just we tend to argue about money. There was a study done that said that 90% of couples in that study said that yes, we do argue about money. 30% of those people said that they actually argue on a weekly basis. So we don't want it to be that big of or have that big of an impact on your marriage, but it can. They said that 46% of those they fight over frivolous purchases, 30%, 33% over household budgeting, 26% over credit card debt, 25% over insufficient saving, and 22% over insufficient retirement. So even if you maybe do a good job of having a budget together, there still may be parts of that financial component that you argue about. Just because you're not arguing over debt doesn't mean you're not arguing over a certain purchase. So lots to actually dive into. Yes, as Lindsay said, please utilize the chat. I would love to talk to you if you have any questions or comments. If you want to add to, I mean, we're friends, so we can talk about anything here. So if you want to talk about the things that y'all have argued about, go for it. Drop it in here. We're friends. Okay, so why do couples fight about money? Basically, it boils down to different beliefs about saving, spending, and financial priorities, which makes sense, right? Money issues can arise when couples are working separately towards their financial goals, and then therefore resentment builds. It can arise when couples have different spending personalities, which we'll talk more about here in a little bit. When one or both have debt, that can add to financial stress. In fact, statistically speaking, if a couple enters a marriage with debt, they are more likely to end in divorce. And then another one is one doesn't work while one spouse earns more than the other, which can contribute to fights as well. Okay, so what can you do to try to eliminate the money stress and the money fights? Tip number one, get on the same page as equal partners. I'm going to go through some examples of how to do that, but what do I mean by equal partners? Equal partners mean equal input. Even if one spouse is working and the other one is not, both partners should have equal say. Same thing with if one's earning more money than the other. Just because one is earning more money doesn't mean that they should have more say than the other. You are a team, so you should be on the same team. There is such a thing as financial abuse, where one person controls all the finances and the other person has no say and no control. So just be aware that you are not a victim of that, but and making sure that you have that conversation of equal partners means equal input, not necessarily equal income. All right. Avoid assuming your partner shares the same priorities as you. You know, we're all different human individuals. So we're bringing different things to the plate. And so different things can impact our priorities. And you may think, okay, I've been married to this person for 10 years, or I've been with this person for 5 years. I feel like I know them pretty well. You really should be diving deep into what their priorities are, because our past experience impacts that, what we value, even our friends and family in our life, and then any future goals that we have. So I do suggest that you sit down and answer some of these questions together, and just try to drop down any guards that might be up, because if money has been a problem and that it escalates when you talk about money, you want to make it where you can talk about money with the emotion part not in there. Take the emotion component out if you can. So one of the question can be, what is a money mistake you wish you could do over? If y'all are currently fighting over a purchase that one made without the other one's permission, it could be an opportunity for that person to say, yeah, I probably shouldn't have done that. Or something in the past. What do you value? What is your greatest financial fear? Is a great question that you could ask each other. Friends and family, if you could have the money habits of one person in your life, who would it be? Because maybe that's someone that you can talk to and bring in some of the things that they do with their money, if you admire how they handle their money. And then future goals. If 100 years from now, someone wrote a book about your life, what's something you would want them to say? I think it's really important to try to have these financial conversations where you're not at odds with each other. I'm not assuming that everyone is at odds with each other. Just statistically speaking, a lot of people do fight about money. It doesn't necessarily mean it's always contentious. Sorry, can't speak today. I'm having the hardest time speaking. But I want you to think about ways that you can discuss money without being at odds with one another. Here's another helpful tip. Date your spouse. So what do I mean by date your spouse? Schedule monthly budget dates and annual marriage retreats. This doesn't have to include money, by the way. If you say, okay, a monthly budget date requires us to spend money on a date every month and we don't have the money to do that, it doesn't necessarily mean that. It means carving out time to spend together. Now, if you do have the money to do that, yeah, I mean, like your annual marriage retreat could include going on vacation with one another. But it also could just mean setting time together in your house, maybe getting a hotel in the same city that you live in, just some time that you can carve out with each other to go through those priorities to better understand how your partner views money, but also help you set personal and financial goals for the year. This is why it's an annual retreat, because each year you should be setting new goals for yourself. Now, if you are setting goals for yourself, if you're that type of person that you do this anyway, it's really important for you to communicate what your financial goals are to your partner, because you may be working towards different goals, and that's not going to be helpful. You should be on the same page as far as your financial goals. And so your monthly budget dates, when you sit down to set up your budget for the month, should reflect what is in that, what you walked away from that annual retreat, what your goals are for the year, right? If one partner says their goal is to pay off their car, and the other one says maybe it's to contribute more towards the vacation fund. Okay, well, what is your monthly budget setting, working towards? If you both decide together those are both important, then you can have money going towards both. or you need to be on the same page of which one you're trying to achieve, and that budget should reflect that. There's different ways to set up budgets: an Excel spreadsheet, pencil and paper, a budgeting app. There's so many good free budgeting apps out there. I lost my chat. It went away. Oh, there it is. Okay, I haven't heard that partners coming into marriage with debts are more likely to divorce. Interesting. Yes. I'm trying to remember exactly what that statistic said. But yeah. What app is on the right of the screen? That is, I think, Good Budget. It could be EveryDollar, but I'm pretty sure it's Good Budget. EveryDollar and Good Budget are two free budgeting apps that we do recommend, but there are a lot of great free budgeting apps out there. If you know me very well, you know I'm all about free. I'm a pretty frugal person. And so I always say, don't upgrade the budgeting app to the premium service. It's not necessary. I use a Google spreadsheet that I can just access. Yeah, I agree, Jennifer. I think it's Good Budget. But I access the Google spreadsheet from my phone. So I like that. Any questions so far? Yeah, my chat keeps going away. I have to keep pulling it forward. Another tip is sticking it out. We've been married for over 30 years and we hardly ever argue about finance now. Yes, I agree with that. I will say, I do feel like it gets easier, especially when as your children get older too, if you have children, and then as you start making more money, it makes it easier too. You also get used to each other. You know, at the beginning of my marriage, one of the things we would fight about is him putting the clothes in the clothes hamper. Well, eventually one of us was going to have to give in. Either he was going to just throw his clothes on the floor and I would just not say anything, or he was going to have to start using the hamper. But one of the two things would happen, right? He started using the hamper. All right. But we didn't fight about it. I would just remind him, right? Like same thing with my son, who's now 20. When he was in kindergarten, I would just remind him to hang up his towel, right? Just because you don't argue about money doesn't mean you're on the same page, right? That's why I think the communication is so important. I think some people, when every time a topic comes up, they start fighting about it. So then they just stop talking about it, which is not necessarily the right way to handle it either. I think it's getting to a place where you can have a calm conversation and try to meet in a place that you're both happy and you're both trying to work towards the same goals. Okay. As far as setting up your budget, you have to bring the numbers. You have to be honest. You can't be hiding anything from your partner. Prioritize needs, right? Because I think that if you can be on the same page about paying your bills and your needs, it's usually the leftover money. Where should that go towards? Because you have saving and investing, wants, paying off debt. This may be where the debate can come into play, because there's really no debate of whether or not you pay your rent or mortgage. That has to be done, right? So there's a 50-30-20 rule of thumb when it comes to budgeting, where 50% of your money goes towards needs, 30% towards wants, 20% saving and investing. That is a good rule of thumb. It doesn't work for everyone, but it is a good rule of thumb. However, if you have debt, then you might need to reduce that. Amazon is a monster. Yeah, I got rid of Amazon Prime. I always say, make saving easy, make spending difficult, right? If you are a natural spender and that's what causes the issue, try to make spending more difficult on yourself. With today's economy, who can afford wants? Absolutely. Absolutely. And so like, that's funny. Yeah. But we typically have a little bit of discretionary income, a little bit of spending that we can spend on wants. And so, for example, my husband always had some money to eat out for lunch. And that was like his one area. He's not a spender, but that was his one area where he would spend money. But we recently had to replace an AC unit. And so he has started packing his lunch for the first time in our marriage. Yeah. My husband is a spender, but when I tell him we need to rein it in and get back on a budget, he is very good about it. Yeah. And I think we all can get in that habit of, right, like tightening up and then letting loose and maybe overspending a little bit more than what you should be spending. I think this can happen easily around the holidays. Same thing with overeating, right? I get a little bit more loose about what I eat and what I spend around the holidays. All right. Should you have joint accounts? Throw it in the chat if you think yes or no. I'm just interested to see what you all say. Yes and no. I see that. Okay. 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 So a lot of yeses, some nos, some maybe some others. Okay. So guys, I'm not answering this question for you. Y'all have to decide that as partners if you have joint accounts or not. I will tell you, I got married when I was 20. So I turned 21 on my honeymoon. So we took my husband's $10 and my $10 and we put it in the same account when we got married at 20, right? So there was no his or my funds, like we had no funds. So we joined them. But I can understand why some people might keep it separate. For me, I feel like we are on the same team. So our finances need to be on the same team as well. There are many people that have separate accounts and they do work on the same team. My brother got married when he was older and he was established. His wife was established. They have an account together, but they also have separate accounts as well. If it's an issue, then maybe you need to talk about it. But if you have a system that works for you, you have to figure out what's best for you, right? Again, you may have your own discretionary spending. So maybe that's what the separate accounts are for those, like the fun money, right? The sweet treats where you don't have to ask permission. You shouldn't be having to ask permission to get yourself a drink from Starbucks. However, if you know you are overspending on your Starbucks drinks, you're spending more than what you can afford, then that is something that you have to come to terms with, right? But your partner should not be acting as the parent to say, no, you can't have a Starbucks, yes or no. So maybe a thing where you set limits for each other. Okay, we have $30 a week for discretionary spending. You can spend it however you want. I have $30 a week. However, I can spend however I want. If I want to save it and spend $60 the next week, that's fine too. But you have to find a system that works for you. Just make sure that you are not hiding things from one another because that can really build resentment. That's where a lot of problems come into play. A third of couples who fight about money say they have hidden purchases from their spouse. And I think that is a path that you just don't want to go down. So you need to be honest with each other. If you find that you hide purchases because you don't want to be shamed, then have that conversation. So I grew up with a very, very tight father. My stepfather raised me and he was very tight with money. He taught me some really good financial habits, but also he just was kind of unrealistic, in my opinion, about spending money. So my mom would sometimes hide and give me some money that he didn't know about. Okay. And my husband and I started dating in high school, and he said, please don't ever do that to me. And I said, don't be overbearing with money, and then there will be no issue. And so that's kind of what we've always had in our family, is that we can talk about it, and he cannot control my spending and I cannot control his. Honest, transparent communication is key. Yes, not just with finances, with everything, right? Showing respect to one another. I think respecting each other's differences and opinions is really important. Again, I really wanted to stay on the focus of good financial habits because I don't really want to give marriage advice. But those are just things that I feel that has been worked for my marriage. Discuss your debt. Be honest about it. If that's the issue, then talk about it. So when you're in debt, you have two options to get out of debt. One, increase income or decrease expenses. But you both have to agree about what you're going to do to try to pay off that debt. Come up with a list of all your debts. How much do you owe? What is the interest rate, the minimum payment, current balance, and estimated payoff date? And then come up with a plan to repay it. Okay. Debt snowball is one strategy to pay off debt, where you list all your debts from lowest balance to highest balance, except your mortgage if you have a home loan. And it's all consumer debt, right? So if it's a student loan, a home loan, not a home loan, sorry, a car loan, a credit card, put them all in there, personal loan, payday loan, anything. Put it in there, list the debts from lowest balance to highest balance and your minimum payment that you have to pay each month to stay current with them. And then, so in this example, this person has $280 they have to pay every month towards their debt just to stay current, but they came up with an extra $100 a month that they could throw towards their debt. So now they can afford to pay $380 a month towards the debt. Which debt do you throw that money towards? With debt snowball strategy, you throw the extra money towards your lowest balance first. And then after it's paid off, you take that money and you throw it towards your second lowest balance until it's paid off. And then you add it to your third balance and continue on. It is a proven strategy. This is the most popular strategy as far as paying off debt, because you can see your progress and it's motivating to keep you going. Okay. If you just make your minimum payment without making extra payments, you will eventually pay your debts off, but you will get out of debt faster and pay less in interest if you can make extra payments towards your debt. So this is a strategy of which debt will you pay off first, and it's your lowest balance. The next type of strategy is called debt avalanche. It's where you list all your debts from highest interest rate to lowest interest rate, and then you throw all your extra money towards your highest interest rate debt first. And then once that's paid off, then it goes towards your second highest interest rate debt. This actually is not as popular as debt snowball, even though this strategy actually saves you more money. And the reason why it saves you more money is because you are paying off the highest interest rate debts first. But the reason why debt snowball is a more popular method is because you tend to see progress quicker, and therefore it's more motivating. These balances are very similar, and interest rates aren't too vastly different, so you can't really see the emphasis in this. But if your balances were much more different than one another and your interest rates had a wide variety, then you would be able to see how the debt snowball, you will see the progress quicker, but debt avalanche, you save money. So either strategy to get out of debt faster, you could choose. But again, it's just about being on the same page and working towards the same goal. Lindsay, which one? Debt avalanche or debt snowball? Because I didn't see it till just now. Snowball. Very good. And so I was working with a young man and his wife. When they first got married, they were arguing about how they were going to manage their finances. And I think really for him, it was not wanting to close his accounts because, and going to her accounts because of everything he established. I think it was just a little bit like, you know, he's been taking care of things. He didn't want to stop taking care of things. So I helped them kind of communicate with one another and get on the same page about how they were going to manage their finances and whose accounts they were going to keep and which credit cards they were going to use. But one of the things is he got a lump sum of money. He got $5,000, and he was like, okay, which debt do I pay off first? So he was doing debt avalanche. So we looked at the two debts that had the highest interest rates And so he paid off one completely and partial of the other one, but it was a strategy of which debt was he going to try to take care of first. And as you're doing this, you're working through these goals and trying to accomplish your financial goals, whether it's paying off debt or saving up for something. Celebrate your successes along the way, whether it's just a simple coffee date, or a high five in the hallway as you're going off to your second jobs, whatever you can do to celebrate your successes, because it is helpful to be on the same page and feel like you're winning together. The other thing is communicate to understand one another. If you are, you both were raised in different houses, you view money differently. We talked about this with priorities. Make sure that you're communicating so that you can understand where your partner is coming from, rather than just taking it as they're working against you. It's much easier to be proactive versus reactive, right? If your spouse or partner, and you are being proactive with this information and trying to get ahead of it, there's probably not as much resentment and emotions built up into it versus being reactive. Oh, you hid this credit card from me. Now we have this debt, or you hid this purchase from me when you knew we were trying to work towards this goal. It can become a lot more difficult to work through. So what to do instead? Discuss your bank accounts, agree on amounts. Don't let disagreements fester. Don't keep score, because we all make mistakes, right? Even if you're not the one, you feel like you're not making money mistakes, you make mistakes in other places. And also try not to exaggerate. If your spouse does something, your partner does something, don't say you always do this or you never do this. Try not to use those words always and never. It would be better to use specific examples of, 3 days last week you did XYZ versus you always do this. And understand each other's spending personality, because we all view money differently, right? I'm gonna put out 4 money statements. And I want you to think about which one you agree with the most for yourself. And I want you to think about the statement that you think would best fit your partner. Okay. So money statement number 1, I obsess over finding the lowest prices and best deals. Money should mainly be used for future security. The idea of carrying debt on a credit card terrifies me. Number 2, I would never take a job for the money. I would invest in a friend's business because I trust them. Number 3, money equals success. I pick up the tab because it makes a good impression. Having the best is worth the money it takes. Number 4, I really enjoy buying the perfect gifts for loved ones. Spending money with my social circle gives me a sense of belonging. Buying things makes me feel good. So which one of these statements do you feel like you resonate with the most? And also thinking about your spouse, which one do you think that they would think it applies mostly to them? Okay. If you're not sure, if you read these and you're thinking, but it's between 1 and 2, maybe something like that, I'm going to give you another one to go through. So now you'll know for sure which one you identify with the most. Number 1, I never spend more than I earn. I know all my monthly expenses and plan for them. Number 2, money should be used to help others. Money causes problems between people. Number 3, I chose my current job for the money. I chose my home based largely on the appearance of the neighborhood. Number 4, credit card debt is okay if I'm living the lifestyle I have always dreamed about. If I want it, I buy it. Okay. All right. So you think about yourself and think about your partner. Okay. So if you or your partner is a number 1, they are the thrifty saver. If you or your partner is number 2, you are the idealist. Number 3, the CEO. Number 4, the gift giver. What does that mean? We're going to go through the strengths and challenges with each type, but I want to point out each type has its own strength and challenge. Okay. So I don't want you to think one is better than the other, right? We are all flawed human beings. And so we need to appreciate our partner's strengths instead of focusing on their weaknesses. And I will say, out of the 25 years I've been married, I feel like that's probably my most important tip to give young married people, as a married people, is to focus on their strengths, because I could focus on the things that drive me crazy about my husband, but what good is that going to do? It is better for my marriage to focus on his strengths because he has many strengths, right? So let's focus on each other's strengths. If you are the thrifty saver, you are confident with money. You don't spend money to keep up with the Joneses. Some challenges, you may be a cheapskate or judgmental of others. You're overly risk adverse. So as someone who grew up with a thrifty saver, and I am married to a thrifty saver, I also have to remind my spouse that we need to spend money on memories with our family and not just save. Okay. Number 2, the idealist. Strengths, happy with or without money. Peace and compassion is more important than material possessions. Challenges, may have difficulty taking charge of your money to set your dreams in motion. Also, if you have a gift, a talent that could end up being a second form of income for you, you may have a hard time charging for that service to your friends and family if you're an idealist. Yeah, Jennifer, that's great. Yeah, my husband, not my husband, sorry. My dad, my brother, and my son all shop at thrift stores. I have not been so lucky. I have never been lucky. I say that. Halloween costumes, I was lucky. But it also could be a challenge and like a hobby too, right? If you go in there and you're spending your time doing that, might be fun. All right, the CEO, strengths, well-defined and specific taste, goal-oriented, highly driven. Some challenges, never have enough money, constantly comparing yourself to others. The goalpost keeps moving. So you finally achieve this, but now you want that, right? And guys, I will say, as a money coach, I have taught myself how to save, but I am a natural spender. And I think that I grew up with people that I felt like always had more than me. And my dad was so tight with money that I naturally go into the CEO category because of the way I was raised. I think it has a huge part of why I am that way. The gift giver, your strengths, generous with your spending, you treat yourself and others on special occasions. Challenges, risk of debt due to overspending and impulse spending, risk of buying to counterbalance emotion. So again, just remember that we all have strengths, we all have weaknesses, but also we all don't fit entirely in one box. I am not just a CEO. I also have other elements of these spending personalities that apply to me. And Thelma, I don't know why you're crying for being a gift giver. It's so sweet that you want to treat other people, but I guess if you are struggling with overspending, that may be why it's the crying emoji. I'm a 4. Donna says I'm a 4, but I won't go into debt for it. That's good. That's good. But it also, if it's keeping you from meeting your own personal financial goals, that could be a problem too. See, we all have our own strengths and weaknesses. Admit what you don't know, get the help if you need it, keep the end goal in mind, and making sure that you and your partner are on the same page as far as what the end goal is. If you have any questions, my friends, one, I'm going to allow you to drop them in the chat or unmute yourself to ask them. But if you don't want to ask in front of everyone, also feel free to email me, right? You can email me any questions that you may have. Do you have any questions that you want to ask in front of everyone? Now that we went through this marriage therapy together? Shop therapy. Yeah. Yeah. Emotional spending.
It looks like I see a hand raised that maybe there might be a question. If you
Yeah.
want to go ahead and unmute, go right ahead.
Is she able to unmute herself?
Yeah, there is one in the chat though that says, do you have books, whether audio or hard books or similar that you suggest? I know a lot of time other workshops you have books or the materials that you'll suggest. Do you have any to suggest specifically for marriage and money?
Yeah. So, um, while I will say I'm not 100% a Dave Ramsey fan, I think his daughter's as sweet as she can be. There's so many good things about Dave Ramsey. I think he's just a little rough about it. But I do think that if you are in debt, it is very good to do the total money makeover and get on the same page and be aggressive when it comes to paying off your debt. What he calls it gazelle intense. So I do the total makeover is a really good one to get on the same page about money. Lindsay, there's another one that I read about marriage and kids and money, and I can't think of the name of it. So what I'll do is I'll email it to you so that when you send this information out, you can add it to it. Would you suggest using savings to get rid of debt faster? So, Carly, that's a great question. That is one of the things that Dave Ramsey goes over. He says you need to have at least $1,000 in emergency savings, then aggressively pay off your debt, and then work towards 3 to 6 months of living expenses. I personally would not feel comfortable only having $1,000 in my savings account. I think it would keep me up at nighttime. So that's one of the things that I don't necessarily 100% agree with. But what he's saying is you should be so gazelle intense about paying off that debt. And then if an emergency comes up, you pause on the extra money towards the debt and you throw that towards the new emergency. But things are just so much more expensive now that most emergencies don't even fall under that $1,000 mark anymore. Even my 20-year-old son, I told him he needs at least 2,000 in a savings account. So you got to find that number in the savings that makes you feel comfortable as you're paying off your debt. I can't answer that for you. Okay, we got a lot of questions. So let me make sure I get them all. I got a private question. My husband believes that if you aren't paid 1 month in advance, you are 1 month behind. Yeah, I mean, it's the notion of living paycheck to paycheck. If you are getting paid and then immediately using that money to pay for your bills versus having a buffer that, yeah, I get that. But you could have a 3 to 6 months of living expenses in a savings account, and you could look at it as, okay, I actually have 3 months of bills already saved up if I needed to. But I definitely get where your husband's coming from on that. Do you have audiobooks or similar you suggest? Krista, I love audiobooks, so I will share several with Lindsay to share out with the team or with everyone on here. How do you have a conversation if partner is a hot pocket spender on occasion? Well, what I would do is again have the extra your own discretionary spending so that if they, get a wild hair and they want to spend it, they have that money, right? And then so they could maybe go weeks without spending so that that money's just rolling over and building up, and then when it builds up to a certain amount they can go and spend it, and then there's no argument there if you're on the same page about it. Like you both have your own money, and maybe you can only afford $10 a week for your own discretionary spending, but that's again allowing yourself to go get a treat without talking to the other one. And if one person doesn't like those sweet treats throughout the week, they can let their $10 continue to build up, whatever amount that you can both agree on. But I think the discretionary fund can help you both not be controlling over the other one about spending. Do you and let me go back. If you're on the same page about your monthly budget, if you're both looking at it, you're not doing it without your partner. If you're both looking at the monthly budget, you're both realistically seeing how much you can afford for this extra thing, right? If one partner's putting their head in the sand about the money and being like, oh, that my partner takes care of the money situation, then they may not realistically realize how tight it really is. I mean, that's one of the things I had to tell my husband. You don't understand how much the groceries have gone up and has taken in our insurance and all these things. I started showing him the numbers because he's so used to me taking care of the money situation as the money coach. I said, no. So we sat down, and it had been a long time since we ever had to sit down with the finances together, but I just show him how much everything had increased. Do you recommend the Good Budget or Every Dollar app? They're both good. My coworker, Sarah Wilmot-Lightman, uses Every Dollar. She likes that. I use an Excel spreadsheet. If you want to email me, that's C. Schaefer, I can send y'all a spreadsheet that you can use. Again, those apps are free. They work a lot like an Excel spreadsheet. You put them, your income in, you put in how much you spent on bills and needs and wants and all the things, and then it does the math for you to figure out how much you still have left in that category. So if you're going to Target, and Target is a category of like wants, not groceries, you can maybe put it in there that way. The way we do it, I don't really go to Target much. I go to Walmart, and for me, Walmart is my needs. It's food, it's toiletries, it's cleaning products. That is a need. Eating out is a want. So it's different in our budget. If you go to somewhere like Target where you're buying some needs, some wants, you need to figure out how to put that into your budget that works for you. Would you suggest using, I already answered that one. What is the recommendation when someone comes into a relationship with debt already and your spouse does not have any? Should you keep your money separate? So again, keeping money separate or combining it is a conversation that you two both have to agree on. But for me, once you become one, your marriage is, I mean, your money is one. You're a team. So it's no longer his debt, her debt, or his debt, whatever the partnership looks like. It's our debt. We're going to work together to pay off that debt. That's the way I look at it. But again, I went into this marriage at 20, so a lot has changed. All the debt that we accrued together. We didn't have it going into it. But I do feel like working together on all goals, not just financial, makes it where you're more likely to be successful and working towards the same end goal. Any other questions?
Yeah, Cami, I think some great points. And certainly we were chatting before this. I was listening to a podcast about this couple that is talking about the marriage game plan just recently. And yeah, this and really just all parts of it, how important going towards it together, planning together, being on the same page, that communication is key. How much that really is important. So certainly when it comes to the financial portion as well. So whatever that looks like for you and your partner, whatever the best looks like for you all, at least being able to talk through it and is really the key portion of it, and identify what works best for you as a team, working towards those things together and having that great communication. I think there's a few more things dropped in the chat, so I'll let you address those. Like when you're a single mom coming into a relationship, it is hard not to already have debt. Yeah, absolutely. Like we all come from different walks of life, experiences. And so, yeah, some of us maybe found our partner early in life, like you did, Cami. For me, it was later in life. So, yeah, it's just kind of makes it really unique and dynamic. And again, I think why it's so key. And I think, Cami, you've touched on this too, why it's so important to have that communication and try to leave the emotion out to the side as much as possible, and being solution focused, solution driven. Some some thank yous. That was a great session and great points that were talked about. So Cami, anything else to add?
No, I'd just say good luck and email me if you have any questions. You can fill out my survey if you want to give me feedback. This was the first time I've ever done this session, so you feel free to give me any feedback you want. We have great financial literacy videos on YouTube under Money Moments, but we're here to help you. So let me know how I can help.
Absolutely. And then right next month we have teaching kids about money. Isn't that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I will just say this. If you look at my son's finances, you will think, oh, she was really good about teaching her children about money. And then you look at my daughter's finances, you'll go, oh, okay, so kids are different. They learn different ways. They make mistakes just like us humans. So I'm excited for that session.
Awesome. Me too. So thank you. Hopefully you guys can join us for next month again with Cami and teaching kids about money and little nuggets of information she has to share with us, and hopefully, you know, some that we can share with each other as well with all our variety of experiences. So thank you so much.